And President Bola Tinubu's administration has ushered in a new era of economic reforms aimed at revitalizing Nigeria's business environment. Since May 2023, policies like the fuel subsidy removal, foreign exchange unification, and tax reforms have significantly altered the operating landscape for businesses. While these measures aim to attract investment and stimulate long-term growth, they've also intensified price sensitivity among consumers, grappling with inflation exceeding over 30% at its peak. Let's talk more now with a man that does business in Nigeria. I have Mr. Olagoke Balogun, who is the CEO of So Fresh Neighborhood Markets, joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you.
Same here. Thank you.
I guess it's happy inauguration day, at this point. And, definitely it's been quite the ride.
It is. You can
for
say that.
Businesses, for consumers, alike. We've all had to deal with a lot of challenges, at this point. So I'd like to get, from a business perspective, what has it been like for you in the past 2 years?
I mean, like you rightly said, it's been more like a coaster ride.
Right.
You wake up, to fluctuations, instability, and it was a very tough environment for businesses. While on one hand, a number of people understood why some of those changes had to happen or some of those reforms, but the fact that it hit businesses really hard. So, you were grappling with, reduced margins because of inflation, FX movements, and, at the same time, your costs were rising, and then customers were apprehensive, and you had low consumer spending. So it was like a three-edged sword. I know of a two-edged sword, but this was like a three-edged sword that was, facing the business. And so it was very difficult planning. It was difficult, many businesses closed down. Some businesses struggled. But yeah, so that's the environment where the businesses have operated in the last 2 years. I think 2024 was the peak of it, and it was a really tough year for a lot of businesses.
Right, so there were kind of like cycles, from 2023 up to this point. There were times where it was really bad.
Yeah.
And I guess there was some kind of recovery.
Yes, so I'll say yes. Especially for this year, I think we're starting to see some kind of recovery, especially, I would say, more around stability. So what we had last year was, especially for food businesses, which is the space I played, you never can tell what your cost will be. We're in May now, you never can tell what your cost will be in June or in July. And so planning was very difficult. But in the last, 6 months thereabout, there's been a lot more stability. The rate of fluctuation has significantly reduced. So you are in a better environment to plan. I think customers have also, there's a lot of more, customer confidence. Unlike what you had, people didn't know what to expect. Today was, fuel, tomorrow was, the FX changes. And so I think it's a much...
And you don't want a customer that's not confident.
No, you don't want a customer that's not confident. Business. Very bad for business. Coupled with the fact that your costs have now gone through the roof. And, so I say that it's been more stable and the environment is far more better than what we had.
Yeah, so let's look at some of the listed companies now and the revenue in the first quarter of 2025. We're seeing the likes of Nascon Allied Industries there, 41.85 billion revenue Q1, up 77% from the previous quarter. Cadbury Nigeria about 37.23 billion. We see Nestle 294.9 billion naira, up 61%. So we're seeing up and up there when we're looking at those companies, their revenue compared to Q3 of 2024 into Q1. So we're seeing improvement. So is it the same thing for small businesses? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think the trend is similar for small businesses. I think one of it is, largely driven. A lot of businesses took a price increase last year, and so that's reflecting in in the revenues. Many people corrected for the inflation, corrected for the exchange rate, and so if we compare it, I think it will also be helpful to compare volumes, because what you've had is a lot of businesses have grown in terms of the Naira value, but they have declined in the volumes. So one of the big challenges facing businesses, especially small businesses right now, is how do I grow that volume back? because it's not just sufficient to grow the the top line, because your costs too have risen. So you must be able to now look inwards, increase your channels and getting more customers to grow that volume. But basically on the top line side, I think most businesses are experiencing a growth in top line. I would say likely driven by the increase in prices. There's also more consumer spending right now. So yes, it's the same trend.
Right. All right, let's look at the labor market, at this point. I know you employ a lot of people. And, it's the same story, inflation, maybe the salary is not able to get you, anywhere you're trying to go, at this point. How have you been able to deal with raising salaries? How have you dealt with that? And still managing profitability?
So it was even inevitable, that businesses had to raise salaries, especially when you are an SME and when you employ at that much lower level. They are eat faster by inflation, and so yes, for us, we knew we had to raise salaries, like many small businesses did. So it was not an issue of looking inwards, operational efficiency. So if I'm raising prices here, where am I getting, gains to, manage my costs, reduce my costs? So there's had to been a lot of internal, efficiency re-engineering for most businesses. One of the things I've seen a lot of people do is, to divert to local sourcing. So in my space, I know that a lot of businesses, used to, bring in items, but there's been a lot of, reorientation to say, so I like to say it's not patriotic that many people are patronizing Nigeria now. It's a matter of strategy. So how do I cut down my costs of material? So we're seeing that, a lot of operational efficiency to ensure that you are operating efficiently and you're managing your costs, and then those gains you can transfer it to to your labor. Because what we saw was that a lot of staff started resigning, leaving job. Like it's better for me to sit at home than for me to work a whole month, and then my salary is not able to cover for my cost of transportation, feeding, and all of that. So I think it also forced businesses to be smarter, to work leaner, to be sure that they're operating efficiently.
And working leaner means some kind of layoffs.
So not necessarily layoffs. For example, we didn't have to do a layoff, but we had to do a lot of internal efficiency re-engineering, like I said. For some businesses, yes, it had to be layoffs. So if you had 10 people manning a station, you had to ask yourself, do I need the 10 people? Because now your volumes have reduced, so do you still need that 10 people? So yes, that actually happens. It's inevitable in business. You just have to look at all your operating points, from materials to labor to utilities and the range of everything, and look at where you can get the most savings.
Right. I know you play in the healthy food space, at this
That's
point.
number one.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, in a cost of living crisis, there's this notion that healthy food is expensive. So would you say consumer sensitivity wasn't so bad, towards healthy food? Because you're trying to eat here. Do you think your first choice is healthy food? Or how do you impact
so
your
maybe I should correct that notion. So I don't believe healthy food is expensive, because you find the same person that buys a 5,000 shawarma complains that 5,000 or 6,000 salad is expensive. So I think it's a function of a preference, or the value perception. But yes, a lot of people have the perception that healthy food is expensive. But the reason also because you're using real ingredients for your products. There is no preservatives, no artificial stuff in the food. So you can expect that the value is not going to be the same with with other types of food. So that market is in two ways. Some people, that market caters to a very specific niche, and they like what they like, they want what they want, and I'll say it's been very resilient playing in that space, because people understand why they're buying healthy food, they understand the reason behind it, and so as long as you're able to deliver that value and pass across that, messaging, to the customers. We did not see too much variation in, customer volumes. Yes, we had some drop-offs, and drop-offs happen to say, okay, I'm buying this 4 or 5 times. Now maybe I'll buy it 3 times. Maybe I'll buy a different variant. So I also think it was a function of having, different levels of, products for different, classes of customers. So for example, at SoFresh, we have something for, different levels. And so if you're not buying this, you can buy this. If you're not buying that, you can buy this. And so I would say it's
So
one
you're
of
not
the,
stuck in high prices at this point. But what would you say businesses are finding growth opportunities, in this business climate?
So, I believe that no matter what the climate is, there is always, business opportunities. So for me, I think for a business, the questions you need to be asking yourself is, at every point in time, are you on the relevant channels? So if you're on one channel, you're on 2 channels, can we increase that channel to increase visibility, to increase awareness? Because there's no business that you get to a point where you've reached all your customers. So there's always opportunity, one, to reach more customers. There's also opportunity to sell more to your existing customers. Like, you're either selling more or, giving them a different service or different products to the same customers. So you need to just be asking yourself, what are those levers I need to pull? Am I opening up more channels? Am I, going to new regions? For example, in the last 3 years, as difficult as things were, we opened up in Ibadan and Port Harcourt, and that exposed us to completely, new customers, and that, influenced part of the growth for SoFresh. So you're looking at regions, you're looking at channels, you're looking at, what more can I sell? Also, in the last 3 years, SoFresh probably launched about 14 new products in 3 new categories that we were not doing before, and those products are doing extremely well. So it's really about looking at, where the opportunities lie, within your business.
Right, and talking about, opportunities and, doing business in this climate, as a business, are you confident that this administration will would prioritize, ease of doing business, and you can actually see it, happening, going forward? Are you confident about that?
I can't speak to being confident, but, what I can speak to is that there is a lot of improvements the government needs to make in making it easy for businesses to start, thrive and grow. From how, even, taxes are administered, from how, other local levies are administered. I like the fact that we're having, the national, tax, reform being passed, and it's just waiting for the president's assent. I believe that, that's a very good, tax reform. So things like that to streamline what businesses are exposed to. And I'll say that there's also a lot to be done in, supporting businesses to thrive, especially in the area of, financing. Businesses thrive on financing, especially businesses that have shown traction and they've shown that, they've been on the upward trend for a while. I don't see enough support. So, for example, when I look at Lagos, because I play a lot in Lagos State, and there was this program that Lagos State started, which is LSCTF, and I think it was a very fantastic program because it supported a lot of small, micro businesses, to grow. I think that is a model that should be replicated, across the country, and at the federal level as well, so that we can help businesses. Because I believe that, one of the things that is going to be very pivotal in us growing this economy is if we can empower enterprises to be more viable, they employ more people. There's no reason why we shouldn't have, our businesses in more locations, in more cities. In fact, some of the leading, apart from maybe the banks and some other business, some of the leading, for example, in food, there is no food business, like food retail, that is in all the 36 states of the country. As big as some of them appear to be, there is none that's in 36 states of the country. So there's a lot of opportunities for government to support and open up.
Right.
Yeah.
And talking about, financing, we know the MPC, that the CBN is doing all it can, to bring down inflation. And we've seen the interest rates stay at 27.5%. The last meeting was another hold. Are you of the view, I know businesses will love.
Always.
So do you want them
but
to
of
cut
course, there
rates?
has to be a balance.
Do you want them to cut rates now? What do you say?
Yeah, for me, they've owed that rate for a while now, and we're starting to see some level of stability. Definitely, I think it will be counterproductive to raise. So I think the next obvious move would be to cut the rate. So for me, like you said, I'm a businessman, and but I think apart from that, on the balance of things, I think that should be the next move for them to cut that rate so that businesses can have lower borrowing cost, and we can start to see even more movement in
And
the
do you think the
economy.
banks have been supportive in these times?
I'll say not enough. Some have been fantastic. I think a lot has not. There's still a lot to be done. There's still a lot to be done. There is not a lot of support, and there's a question around are small businesses formalized enough in terms of structure, in terms of even understanding their business model and their market to put money into. And that's part of the things I think the ease of business where government can come in. So you have, like the SBA in the US, apart from providing funding, they also provide, support in terms of, education, helping to structure businesses. Because yes, I talk to a lot of businesses because I also do a bit of consulting, and you find out that, businesses that have operated for 10, 15 years don't have any form of structure. So the banks are correct in that, but somebody must step in and help those businesses. They are viable businesses. They just need to be structured so that they can access funding and further grow.
Right. So hold their hands at this point.
Yeah.
For those ones without structure. Fantastic. It was great having this conversation with you, Mr. Olagoke Balogun is the CEO of So Fresh Neighborhood Market. Just around us here. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's my pleasure.